The Citizenship Ceremony is now in session. Judge Pash presiding. Please be seated. The candidates assembled here have met all the requirements of the Citizenship Act. They have been lawfully admitted to Canada for permanent residence, are subject to no prohibitions, have met the residence requirement, have knowledge of English or French with certain exceptions, and have knowledge of Canada and of the rights and responsibilities of Canadian citizenship. It is my pleasure to present them to you for the public administration of the Oath of Canadian Citizenship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. A great sunny day in Surrey. Bon matin, what a great group of folks you are. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, in the name of Her Majesty, the Queen, welcome to this very special ceremony, your Citizenship Ceremony. Congratulations. You are about to become new Canadian citizens, are the most important people in the room. You may well be the most important people in Canada right now. We're in the Pacific time zone. Ottawa's nearly closed. If you were not here, no one else would be in this room. The process to become a Canadian citizen, as you have learned, is not simple, nor was it easy. Today began with a journey, your journey. For some, it was fairly straightforward, almost like going on a vacation or relocating your home. Some came to study and stayed. Some fell in love, perhaps. For others, it meant spending months or even years in a refugee camp and wondering whether you would ever be safe. There's the application, there are interviews, there are tests and the assessments, and there have been long periods of waiting. When will I get that letter? You know, we really need to thank the citizenship officers and the staff that make up the team that work every day to cause you and tens of thousands of others to become part of the Canadian family. They work very hard. There just is a large volume of material. It's also important for me that you know that I am honored for the privilege to serve and preside as citizenship judge at your ceremony. It is you who brought me here today, and it's not the other way around. There are 85 or 86 of you from how many countries? Usually it's about 23 or 24 countries, I would guess, in a group like this. And that is remarkable. Sometimes it's as few as 10, but it's usually something in the order of 18 to 22 different countries represented by 80 Canadian citizens in the Citizenship Ceremony here in Surrey. And what you all have in common is a desire for a better life for you and your children and your children's children. Here in Surrey, of course, we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Semiahmoo First Nations people. They lived here thousands of years before the Europeans came. They fished the Fraser River. They gathered camas bulbs in the meadows that is now Surrey. They had a very hard life. It's a very tough country. And indeed, in modern British Columbia, you have worked hard to earn citizenship. It meant learning about Canadian history and geography, understanding the Canadian political system, and many of you had to learn a new language, new ways of living day by day. That takes courage. It takes courage to accept or even acknowledge new traditions, history, symbols, values, and institutions, and indeed adopt them as your own. This morning's event is a state ceremony. It's a big deal. It's equal in its importance to opening Parliament or swearing new government members and cabinet ministers. Because in a few minutes, I will lead you in the citizenship oath in both of Canada's official languages. We will together profess our loyalty to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, just as do members of Parliament and the legislatures, mayors, city councillors, military, and police officers. We swear allegiance to Canada in the name of our head of state of Canada, while promising to obey the law and do our duty. I hope that this hour will be an occasion that you will remember and cherish for the rest of your life. Being a Canadian means more than simply having a piece of paper. It means sharing common values, having rights and responsibilities, and being a full member of the Canadian family with those specific duties and responsibilities. Take the words of the oath to heart. The oath is the bond between you and your fellow citizens, the people you will line up behind in a coffee shop or in a grocery store or pass on the street. The Constitution Act of 1982 contains the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It opens with the declaration that Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God, and that phrase highlights the importance of all religious traditions to Canadian society, all religious traditions, and the dignity and worth of all people. The Charter also states that Canada is founded on the rule of law. And as Canadians, we live in a democratic country where individual rights and individual freedoms are respected. Brave Canadians fought, thousands died for these rights and freedoms that we hold so dear. The commitment to Canada can never be forgotten or go unrecognized. When we recite the oath of citizenship together, let's remember that today, Canadians have life for the choosing. Life for the choosing because of the sacrifice that was made by tens of thousands of men and women who fought to establish the conditions that attracted you to become a Canadian. Yesterday was Battle of Atlantic Sunday, celebrated on both sides of the Atlantic and here on the Pacific coast because the Canadian Navy became the third largest navy in the world during the Second World War. And 2,000 sailors died, most of them in the Battle of Atlantic. The Atlantic conflict was incredibly important to success in the Second World War because it maintained the sea lanes between North America and Europe. It allowed the invasion at D-Day to happen and the ultimate victory over the Nazi enemy during the Second World War. Had the sea lanes not been maintained and controlled by the Allied power, Canada would be a whole lot different. North America would be a whole lot different. Yesterday, across Canada, on both sides of the Atlantic, the Battle of Atlantic was commemorated. This being actually the 70th anniversary of the year that the tide was turned because things were really, really bad in the first 3 years of the Second World War. Submarines were sinking merchant ships in Canadian waters and up the St. Lawrence River as close as 180 kilometers to Quebec City. The war just didn't happen over there. It happened in Canadian waters, in Canadian territory. It is said that the first duty of a free citizen is to defend their country. And of course, that doesn't necessarily mean being part of the military. But it does mean that you can defend your new country every day by developing and demonstrating the attributes of good citizenship. By voting in elections, by doing jury duty, obeying the law, and taking leadership roles to make your neighborhood, city, or province better. You can do that. You can also strive to be moderately physically fit. That will protect our healthcare system. And just by taking an interest in the activities of Canadian servicemen and women around the world, you contribute to the defense of Canada by knowing what your government is doing on your behalf. As a Canadian, you have the right to vote. You can run as a candidate in an election. You can be part of the team to make the changes that you think are necessary. You're free to live and work in any province or territory. Men and women have the right to do any job that talent and hard work can obtain. You can apply for a Canadian passport. And as was pointed out, don't do it today, wait a couple of days, it'll take a while for the system to catch up, but you can have a Canadian passport. In return, Canada only asks that you take time to vote, accept the opportunity to serve on a jury, take responsibility for yourself and your family, obey the law, contribute as you are able and make a difference in your community. Those who give of their time and talent and resources to create a better country because they believe it can and it should be done. And each of us has something to give. An active, engaged citizen doesn't stand on the sidelines and watch the parade pass by. Citizenship demands participation, involvement, and contribution. Just a little over a week, there's going to be a provincial election. a democratic country like Canada, the right to vote is a priceless gift of citizenship that is your personal possession. It belongs to you alone. Our way of government doesn't compel everyone to vote. There's no penalty if you don't. But democracy may fall into disrepute if those who enjoy the rights and privileges fail to exercise them. Voting is not the end of your duty either. You cannot vote democracy and then forget it. Democracy needs to be lived. Those who you elect need to be assisted, inspired, and sometimes prodded by public opinion if they are to effectively serve their constituencies. So now, ladies and gentlemen, this morning, as the great Canadian soldier and poet Dr. John McCrae wrote, "To you we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high." The clerk will now prepare you to take the oath of Canadian citizenship.
Thank you, Judge Pash. We will now proceed. Okay, so candidates, just before we begin, I would ask that you put down all of your papers. I'd also like to remind you that you may take the oath with or without a holy book. If you have a holy book, please take it out and put it in your left hand. You may choose to say, "I swear" or "I affirm." And as you put your holy book in your left hand, you will be raising your right hand when taking the oath. Now, would guests also please stand and observe the administration of the oath of citizenship. Judge Pash, you may now proceed with the oath.
And to our guests who are here today, I would invite you to raise your right hand as well and affirm your Canadian citizenship with your friends and colleagues and guests who are taking the oath today. Ladies and gentlemen, repeat after me. I swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. All right, we're nearly halfway there. We're now going to do the bilingual, the French language version of the oath. And this, of course, is a symbolic gesture that exemplifies Canada's commitment to respecting the two official languages. English and French are recognized in all the institutes of Parliament and the Government of Canada. And you have the right to be served in either official language when you deal with the federal government. Ladies and gentlemen, let's try this in French. Répétez après moi, repeat after me. Je jure que je serai fidèle et porterai sincère allégeance à Sa Majesté, la Reine Elizabeth II, Reine du Canada, à ses héritiers et successeurs, que j'observerai fidèlement les lois du Canada et que je remplirai loyalement mes obligations de citoyen canadien. Congratulations, you are now Canadians in both English and French.
We will now proceed with the presentation of the certificates. Will everyone in the last row please remain standing? All others please be seated until directed by staff to come up.
Share the same future. You can help build a society that is in many ways the envy of the world. You're not asked to give up your culture, your religion, or your language. However, if English or French is not your first language, I do encourage you to strive to improve your ability to speak one or the other, or even both. Your success in Canada is directly affected by your ability to communicate with all Canadians. At the same time, be proud of your roots. Bring all that is positive with you to work together with your neighbors to continue to build this nation. This nation isn't perfect. We do many things right, but there are also some wrongs to be made right. And the notion of doing one's duty as a Canadian is about doing the right thing as much as it is about doing things right. As mentioned earlier, it took sacrifice for you to become Canadians, and today is only the end of the beginning. Tomorrow you will wake up for the very first time as a Canadian citizen. Face the day with determination and pride. Go about your days ahead with a sense of teamwork and discipline to build a better Canada. Canada exists in the terms of each separate citizen, and every person's contribution benefits the nation. The worthy citizen is one who stands upright so that he looks beyond his own toes to the long and wide view, the good of the whole country. Speaking about and because of that, you are part of Canada.
You're a character. You're more of a character now. He gets to vote. Yes, on Tuesday he gets to vote. There's time.